Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to what is the second of what I'm going to be doing the Let's Play series of DragonClash with someone who's got a score to settle. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. A man whose very brainchild is this game, and yet this game has, well, it's both done him proud and shown him up. But today he steps up and he's going to bring the pain. He's going to bring some misery for one of these suckers.
There you go.
It's Marc. Marc, welcome back.
Thank you. Last time again, I'm using we because we lost. You know, it was victorious. It would all be me. But yeah, it was brutal. It happens every now and then. I'm just getting these losing streaks. But of course, it had to happen on stream during an interview. So, but hey, it just proves the game is tough. And yeah, I'm ready for some vengeance for sure.
Absolutely. Well, here's the thing. Just again to catch people up, we had 2 games which I oversaw, added very little to, unfortunately. However, 2 losses. In this game, though, we're not taking any prisoners. We are going to go for the win. I'm going to add some introspective commentary as we go, but Marc, as in the first game, is going to highlight some of the aspects of the game that may be as subtle and nuanced. He's going to give us some insight into how the gameplay is unfolding as we watch, and more importantly, he's going to throw down. He's going to throw bad. It's going to be an absolute massacre. Children, if this is past your bedtime, I promise you need to go to sleep, because what you see today, you will never recover from. This is going to be an absolute, unadulterated, brutal beatdown of dragon proportions, and I can't wait.
I'm knocking on every piece of wood I can find because you're just hot. You are hot jinxing me, dog.
I think you've had a couple of days to sit on this, and you've got everything to play for, nothing to lose.
Oh
I think
God.
you're going to pull it out of the bag. But the question, I think, here's an interesting thing. So we touched on this a little bit in the first video. I've touched on this in the review to a great extent, but I'd love to hear your insight. When you're looking at the selection of the 4,
Yeah.
when you think of your playstyle specifically, what is your favorite playstyle, and which dragon do you think fits that playstyle the best?
Huh. That's interesting. I say, I mean, in terms of who I enjoy playing the most, it's probably the Brown Mauler. And I think I touched on this a little bit in our first talk, and that's mainly because his look is so different from like a normal traditional dragon, which would probably be the red.
He's the outcast, yes, indeed.
Yeah. So it's both his look, because it's probably generally the least favorite among players that I've talked to, which is expected. It was non-traditional, but also the play style. I just love that his theme is one, it interacts with kind of sleeping, naps, dreams, that kind of thing, and also eating. So he makes me chuckle every time. Also, his ultimate attack is so Hulk smash. It's just it just makes me laugh every time it works, because he has an attack where he can literally grab you and just keep smashing you against the ground.
Well, if I was to equate him to anybody, like having played all of these, all of the dragons now, and having gotten a little bit more in depth with their playstyles, the Brown Mauler is akin to Brock Lesnar. Okay,
Yeah.
Sure, he's got holes in his game,
Right.
But for the love of God, you don't want to find out what they are, because while you're finding out, he's going to smash you into the ground. He's tough as nails. Yes, slow to start, but once he gets rolling and once the momentum is shifted, there's almost no stopping him. It takes a more keen implementation of strategy, of trap cards, and attacking the deck rather than the overall essence to bring him down. And trust me, that is not easy.
Yes, and as far as my favorite to play, it's hard to say, because each of them do have a distinct feel to them. I know the blue is whenever I feel like just toying with my opponent, I enjoy playing with blue because her discard effects are just so debilitating, and it's just yeah.
Me and the Blue Adept have some history now. We'll settle that off screen. But suffice it to say, ladies and gentlemen, if you've not played this game so far and you're looking to take down an opponent that's easy, if you're drawn the Blue Adept, best of luck to you. I've never, in all of some background in all of my games so far, the 2 games I was most certain I was going to win, I ended up losing to the Blue Adept. It will just snatch victory from you unless you are cognizant of not only the sort of what's in play, but also what could be in play as a result. You always have to have one eye out for the Blue Adept. It's uncanny how I've been defeated on both occasions by two dragons, which, by the way, again, so we just bigged up the Brown Mauler.
Yeah.
Brown Mauler was one of them. I was almost 100% certain I'd won that match, only to go within a couple of turns. It turns so quickly.
Yep. Yeah, that's how this game can go. It has some pretty epic swings, but on the flip side, you're never really out of it, and and the opponent is never really out of it. So it can definitely change on a dime with a couple of lucky plays or a couple of really smart strategic plays that come together for you last minute. So yeah, and you finally won a game. You said, I know you were clawing at it for a while, and then you came in and got your own vengeance off screen. So. Congrats on that.
Blue Adept was actually the one that got me the win. So what happened was I drew a mirror match. We both leveled up to the maximum, and it was a war of attrition to a certain degree. Essence was received 5 apiece. I think it was about 30 to 25, 23, something like that in my favor, and I just couldn't get a set of attacks going. And then suddenly, boom, three or four in a row. And then it was done like that. But it was really a case that the battle was almost at a stalemate for most of it until we both leveled up to the maximum. And then it was a case that their range of attacks just wasn't up to par. And by that point, I had just more offensive capabilities. And when it's a mirror match, I was the more developed dragon, so it was only one way from there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got my first win, and that was quickly followed by a second. Then I lost twice, and then I won my last one just before we started talking. And now I've got a boss fight in front of me.
Yes.
So just when I think I know something, I'm sure it's going to teach me a thing or two, which I'm looking forward to. That's going to be fun.
Good luck. Yes, Yabul. That's the big brown boss. He's going to be interesting. I won't spoil anything for you, but have fun with it. You have to let me know how it goes.
I'm going to look forward to it. So I guess we shouldn't keep people waiting anymore. Who are you picking, and why are you picking them?
Well, let's see. We tried red and silver last time and lost gloriously with them both. I feel like I want to try silver again. I guess I feel like I need to play one of them again just to redeem myself. But on the other hand, I guess if
unfinished business, I like it.
If people haven't seen blue or red yet, blue or brown, maybe we should try one of those. So you know what? Let's go with brown.
The Brown Mauler, I think. Yeah, I think that was a good jump, a good pick from the jump. Just because we've spent some time bigging him up, number one. But I think also you referenced that a bit of kinship there on your side, so you've got a bit more at stake, and it's a mirror match, so we get to see both sides of the coin, see if the strategy gets implemented correctly on the side of the CPU, and we'll see what Mark can do. So let's get into this.
Yeah. So opening hand, it's not super. It's a plus in a lot of ways. We have a lot of low battle value cards here. That's the number next to the cross sword, which means we can hoard probably a little bit more aggressively. Because if we lose cards, it's not going to be the end of the world. But on the flip side, we have no usable attacks really to start off. We have claw attack here, but we won't be able to train that for a while. And we have no other attacks currently, except for Claw Slam, which is his ultimate attack I was talking about earlier, where he just continues to smash you in the ground. But we can't use it until we get up to Tactics 4 here. So.
Indeed. I just want to elaborate on something, because this is something that I did touch on in the review to a degree, but I feel like I need to expand on here, just again to add some context for people that are maybe more laymen to this type of game. I know there's a lot of people that would look at low value cards as being dealt with on a deck and immediately kind of go, oh, this is, it's going to be a bit grindy. Right, listen, this game has one massive upside that you will almost be thankful to a certain degree that you've got low value cards in your active hand. Those high value cards will factor into the ongoing gameplay. They can oftentimes be the thing that determines whether or not something hits or misses. And in the long style war of attrition types of games, those are the things you want popping up every now and then, rather than in your hand where you can only use 2 at a time. Exactly. Now, granted, in the end game, you are going to want to see those cards popping up more and more. And when they don't, it is a little bit frustrating, but so long as you've adequately built up, and especially in the case of the Brown Mauler, again, slow to start, but once it gets going is a nigh unstoppable juggernaut. It's one of those things that, again, I think you deserve credit for in terms of the design of the game, because it's the impassive sorry, it's the passive stuff as well as the active stuff that all factors in. So you need to be cognizant of that when you're playing, not just thinking, oh man, I can't develop this particular attack right now. You go, yeah, but it's still doing its job in the deck.
Yeah, there's so many decision points that just because you're not working on one aspect, you could be working on another. This hand would be perfect if we had a tail bash or a crushing claw to start, but it's not. It's usable because we can basically concentrate on aging right away, and that's improving our dragon for when those attacks do eventually show up, because they will. But it always makes me feel better to have one of them in hand. But yeah, I guess it's. That was exactly.
What we also don't have to worry about here is the again, one of my. I mean, I like it when I'm playing as the blue adept, but when I'm playing against, I hate the horde mechanic. I think, as you've alluded to, you can be a bit more aggressive with hoarding and leveling up more quickly due to the nature of, again, the brown waller, but also the hand you have. But just a quick question: when you're trying to balance hoarding and building up an attack stack, do you tend, especially with the brown mauler, are you more inclined to be more aggressive in leveling up quickly, or do you maybe lean back and try to set up more defensive capabilities at the start just to protect you in the early stages?
Well, the brown mauler is unique because he does start so slow. The other three dragons, once you level them up once, you'll have a 2 tactics, and so you can start immediately using your kind of mid-game attacks. But the brown mauler takes an extra age. He won't actually get those attacks until age 3. So you kind of have to play the hand you're dealt longer with the brown mauler, and that's traded off by the fact that he does get an added defensive and offensive bonus right from the start. So if you have attacks that you can play early with him, that's great because you can probably settle in and be fairly confident you're going to be successful in them. If you don't, you definitely want to age aggressively because, one, you want to pull attacks out of your discard pile through when you age, you can pull an attack out of there, or you just want to age enough so that you can start using your mid-range or a higher level attacks. So for him, I'm definitely, and that's why I'm actually going to hoard claw attack now too, because if he doesn't beast, and if he does, would suck, but we would only lose 2 1 battle value cards. But if he doesn't, I can then keep quick nap and discard claw attack, and theoretically I can get claw attack right back because it'll be the only attack card in my hand, so I will not actually be losing anything. So in that way, if you watch what cards are in your discard pile, if there are no attack cards in there and you can discard an attack card, you'll get it right back. So it's one of the little advantages of kind of keeping an eye on the discard pile.
Interesting. Okay. Let's see if we can get an early hit. Nope, unfortunately not. That's okay.
It didn't cost me anything. For those watching, claw attack, it's at rank 1 now, so it costs 0 essence and does 1 damage.
I must admit, in some of the later stages of the games I was playing, I was so tempted to just play it safe with a higher accuracy attack versus the just outright attack. But do you know what, man? There's every temptation to just go all out, just go full power, even if it costs me a few extra essences. Like, yeah, but if I do the damage, it could pay off. And again, in the 2 games where I lost, maybe if I'd have been slightly more aggressive, that would have paid off. But I was a bit more conservative in those games, so difficult to say.
And that's the game can get you on tilt really quickly too. But that's the kind of decisions you have to make pretty much every turn. Is how aggressive do I want to be with my essence? Can I push it? Just that 1 extra essence to get that 2 extra damage. But it does add up. If you start missing it, you'll suddenly realize what I was a little too aggressive, and then those ones add up pretty quickly. So,
absolutely.
This is interesting because in every match now that we've played on stream, the opponent has gotten Gaia's Breath its first turn. It's like my curse with games with you. So that's going to up his defense across the board. Not a big deal because we don't have any attacks on it now anyway. So I guess it's a good time for him to, because it only lasts for 10 turns, so it's a good time to get rid of those. He did train Tail Bash, so he's going to be using a lot more essence than he's regaining if I can manage to dodge these. I'm tempted to actually use a counter here. It won't mess up my hoarding, but I'm going to try. Perfect. All right.
Lovely.
Yeah, so because I used the defend, we ended up being a 1 versus 2. Not that it would matter because I drew a higher battle value anyway, but I wanted to guarantee that I didn't have any attacks in my discard pile so that I can then get claw attack back. So yeah, perfect. I regained that, and I drew my own tail bash. Okay, this is interesting.
There we go.
All right, so when you age, you want to when you shed your skin, rather, you want to pick the card you want to keep. So I will keep Quick Nap. And I got back claw attack as we were looking for. Now I have a decision. Because I mentioned before, the brown mother ages slower, but he develops quicker in terms of his attack and defense attributes. So I have a pretty good defense now and a better offense that might be able to. Unfortunately, Gaia's Breath is making it even though. So yeah, it's just I'm debating whether to kind of age aggressively here and then just put another card in my hoard, or to go ahead and play Tail Bash. I think I'm going to still play it a little safe.
I agree, by the way.
Yeah, because he's again using more essence, and now because I aged, he's going to have a 1 to 2 disadvantage. So if he continues to try to tail bash me, he could be burning a lot of essence doing it, and my attack is free. So hey, and if I hit him, even better.
Still chip away. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I completely agree with that move. And again, it seems like the early advantage from Gaia's Breath, yes, but at this present moment, you're certainly in the favourable position because not only have you aged, you're already well on the way to staying ahead of him in terms of the aging process, which means that once Gaia's Breath wears out, you'll then be able to press the advantage because by that point, you'll be at a reasonable level, won't you?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm assuming if he had a feast card, he would have played it last turn. So
exactly, yeah.
I think I can safely be ahead of him in the age game, and. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. No, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm here just choosing my discard. I think I'm going to discard Claw Slam, which might seem crazy because it's his best attack, but for a few reasons. One, it's a 4 tactic, so I won't get to use it for a long time. It's a 6 battle value, so if I can't use it, I might as well try to cycle it back into my deck. And for some reason, if it does get buried, it'll be the bottommost attack, so I know this card will be the next attack I recall. So even though I'm putting it in my discard pile, it's either going to safely be cycled back in and hopefully drawn later, or help me out with attacking later, or I'll end up recalling it the next time I shed skin. So it's kind of a good opportunity to put it somewhere where I can find use for it later.
See how he develops in the next phase. What I was going to say was with the Feast card, so players, again, who are not familiar with the game, the Feast card basically, it nabs anything in either your opponent's or depending on who plays the card. Now, the interesting thing with the way that the computer utilizes it is that with the exception, again, of the of old Bluey, they tend to favor that card when they have it in their deck. I've seen it utilized more frequently in the early stages than I do in the latter stages. Obviously not because of the aging process, slowly becomes less and less important as the battle drags on. But more to the point, it just tends to be favored. So what, again, I think you and I both share the same tactic, which we're always reticent to always have 2 cards hoarded at any one time without aging in the same turn, just because it always seems like too much of a risk.
Yeah.
You're effectively losing a turn that way. I mean, even if you get an attack off that's successful, you're always running the risk of burning 2 cards and stopping yourself from developing at the same rate as your opponent. Yeah.
For sure, it could be a risk, and generally, if you put 2 cards in and the AI has a feast card, it's just like if it was the flip scenario, you should always pretty much feast if you have the card.
Looking at him now, thinking exactly the same thing.
Right. If I had a feast card, I would play it. But if you put 1 in, the AI does probably what you would do. It's like, should I use this resource now, or should I try to maximize its value later? So it might play it, or it might hold it, and so you never really know when you put 1 in, but if you put 1 in, you at least probably have a chance, if he does have it, he might opt to not play it, or she if it's the blue dragon. But because I've aged or shed my skin, I have a 2 body now, so he opted not to use his tail bash because of the advantage that I have, and he's just using his cheaper claw attack. And you can tell because it's highlighted. If for some reason action is going, or you get to talking to your friends like we are, you can always look and see that claw attack is the one that's highlighted, so that's what he's trying to use. I'm not going to bother with a counter for now, so I'm just going to...
Indeed. So the other thing that I like to highlight about the game is that while on the surface it looks tremendously complicated, this game, when you actually pay attention to the small ergonomic choices, like just something as simple as the versus tag, where things are highlighted, even helping you to highlight which cards you can play at in a certain turn. I mean, it's not holding your hand, it's not running you through, but it is just subtly nudging you towards, look, let's save you some time looking through absolutely everything that's on the screen. Let's put you to the most pertinent aspects of the screen, because you want to get to the business of playing. You don't want to spend all of your time doing admin to play a game. You want to get to the business of, I want to see how it plays out, I want to see how the effects, and that's something that this game really does tremendously well. Yeah, and I should point out, all of that you can turn on and off. I actually have a couple of things turned off. But for example, the range tooltips, you can actually see what ranges you can use every card in. I turn it off because I already know generally what it is. But I did try to add a few different options for people in terms of those, giving as much information, especially when you're first starting out, as possible, and then you can constantly consistently pull it back if once you start kind of learning the more in-depth mechanics to the game. Absolutely. Yeah, you don't want a sensory overload, do you? No. But I tried to. I think for the most part, the tooltips, I try to make them not so evasive and kind of just pop up when you need them. But there is actually a tutorial for people who are just starting out. Of course, I have that turned off as well for our games. But just for people who are like wondering, if they jump in, will they be totally swallowed up? There's a rule book here you can zip through. Just to see the finer points, and there's also tutorial slides at the beginning. All right, so I was looking at this as we were talking. I just got an event which would cancel out his event. But it would, and this came up in one of our earlier matches as well. It would drastically diminish my own resources. So I have a love-hate relationship with that card. It can be helpful, especially against bosses, because it limits their resources. But it's a tricky card because, and it's also a good counter to the blue dragon's Ice Blood. If you ever get hit with that, and Ice Blood drops your hand size down to 1, this will actually override it. So you can actually force it back to 4 if you ever find yourself in dire straits. So it does have some advantages, but early in the game, it's probably, and especially if you're off to a slow start like we are, you probably want to keep your resources. So I'm not going to play that. But yeah, I agree. So I don't think we're going to need to burst anytime soon. So I'm going to put that in my. Okay, and cycle that in because we're both brown maulers and we're both kind of stand toe to toe generally. But as far as Oblivion's Call, by the way, the way I've found it most useful in my battle so far is evening up the playing field to not necessarily stem the tide of a losing battle, but certainly to help even the odds. Like I found in games where I was losing initially, not by much, but by enough where I was starting to become concerned, that card helped me at least limit my opponent's ability to be able to continue to press the advantage, which meant at the very least, I could start to catch up in terms of the aging process, which then eventually helped turn the tide of the battle. So, yeah, it is a very much flip of the coin situation where, yes, it has as many disadvantages as advantages, but if utilised in the correct situation, it can certainly help you not necessarily drag it into a war of attrition, but certainly help you turn the tide of the battle towards what you want it to be as opposed to your opponent, who might have a wider deck size. Or like in your case, you don't want to limit it at the moment because you're still building up your attack range, you're still trying to age, you're still potentially trying to counteract anything that he might play on the field.
Right, and if we had an attack trained already, besides claw attack, if we had our tail bash out or a crushing claw or something, I'd feel a little bit more comfortable using it. I mean, we could play our
Exactly.
tail bash, but we're kind of opting to focus on, since we're ahead in the agent game. I'm kind of focusing on that and just seeing what other stuff we draw. There's not a particular rush in it, and in that sense, we're looking more towards the long game. If you were playing aggressively right off the bat, this would probably be a good card to play, because then you could maximize your aggressiveness, really, because you would have something out and hopefully limit them from playing whatever their strategy is. But yeah, so now we're at the point where you get to discard 2 cards, and I kind of paused here because it is important to decide to figure out what order you want to discard the cards in, because remember, when at the start of every turn you regain essence from the top of your deck. So if I was to do the 1 first and then the 6 would get cycled back in first. In this case, I think I'm actually going to put in 2 6s because I'd like one of them to cycle back in, and I'm going to put Claw Slam in first because, again, that's now the only attack in my discard pile. So I know I can either draw that back, extend my age, or they'll cycle back in. And I'm going to put Night Terrors on top because it's a counter, and it's a 3 tactics card, so I won't be able to use it for a little bit. So I'm hoping I can cycle that back in and use it for attacking later. Now the danger is if I start getting hit, these could both be buried. Well, the Claw Slam won't, because I know I can always pull that out, but the danger of burying your Night Terrors card. But at this point, it's a risk I'm willing to take. And I also just would prefer not cycling back in all these ones that we have here.
Absolutely.
Alright, again, it's asking me if I want to counter. I would probably say these. Quick Nap is interesting because you can totally negate an opponent's attack, but at the same token, you then are sleeping during your next attack phase. So
Indeed.
These are really good. They're good hoarding cards for the start of the game, and they're really good at the end game when your opponent's playing those or attempting those 3 rank attacks that could just totally end the game. You could make them spend the essence and then play this, and the attack just ends, and that will give you a time to kind of regain essence your next turn, even after they've already spent their essence. So it's a good stall tactic, but for now.
So hit, but still even Stevens otherwise?
Yeah, we still took a little damage, but it's not the end of the world. Now we're getting a lot of attack options. We have a Claw Slam in here that we can pull back. We have our Breath Attack here, which might be helpful because it's ranged, if we can get another one, especially. We do have Earth Geysers here, which is another attack that's ranged. So we have the opportunity to kind of work the ranged attack game, which would be helpful because we are in a mirror match. You want to look for openings where the Brown typically isn't. Its weakness is generally range attacks. So if you can develop your weakness into a strength, it'll only benefit you, I think. In the meantime, we can't use either of these right now, so I guess I will continue to. Now I already have an attack in here, so I'm just going to put both Quick Naps in. As I said, they're good fodder cards if he does decide to feast early. You can see it's 2 to 3 now, and that's because of Gaia's Breath, but also because just the Brown develops its physical attributes so quickly. And that's another reason why I'm not training Tail Bash, because I wouldn't be attacking with it now anyway, so it's just a waste of an action. I need this Gaia's Breath to go away. Oh, and there's the Feast card.
There it is, yeah.
There it is. So yeah, Feast wipes out your Horde, puts it, and this is the graveyard where your cards are removed from the game. They'll never come back, so those 2 cards are gone, but luckily they're only 1 battle value cards. Unfortunately, we are getting hit more. It's still close, 44 to 42, so I'm not stressed out too much, but
I was kind of hoping on a feast card dropping in for you there, but never mind.
Yeah. I don't know where we drew one. The very first card we drew to see who went first was our feast card. So there's one near the bottom of our deck. We should have 3 others somewhere. But we did pull this awesome gift, which is perfect in a mirror match because it will up our body. And unlike Gaia's Breath, it won't go away after 10 turns. The only way he can get rid of it is with a Ren gift card, which he has right here. So one of them is in the discard pile, and he should have another one somewhere. Hopefully it's not in his hand. But I will definitely be playing this. Now gifts, unlike events, both dragons can have a gift. So if he plays his own absorptive hide, that's perfectly legal. It's events that counter each other. So the only way you can get rid of gifts are by rent gifts, or you can get rid of your own gift by playing another one. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put Oblivion's Call forward. This was a point where I could opt to play it, because by playing it, I would only have to discard 1 card, and he would start. So that's an option too. But again, I'm just going to try to stay aggressive with shedding skin and this recalling as many attacks out of here as I can. The next,
I might get a little quieter here because I'm observing this game play out, and it's fascinating to me now that again I have a bit more context of the situation. Just watching now, I'm really rooting for you as well. I'm really just like watching with bated breath, like kind of like, I don't know if you guys have got snooker in America, but it's a bit like watching a snooker game. I love watching snooker and just watching the game and the tactics unfold, and it's exactly the same here. I don't want to say anything in case I break your concentration.
No, I was just groaning because he played a heal card, which basically didn't, we weren't doing a lot of work anyway. We're kind of just pitter-pattering, but all that work we did do has now been erased because with that 1 heal card. So that could be a swing potentially. He also was able to draw Crushing Claw into his hand. I don't think he'll play it now because he's already started training Tail Bash, which is probably good because Crushing Claw can be huge if he gets it developed.
Only 1 more turn with Gaia's Breath though, so that advantage is about to come to an end on his side. So.
And ours, and he didn't play a Run Gift, which makes me think that it's, thankfully it's somewhere in there. Oh wait, he healed, so it went back into the bottom of his deck. Okay, good. So he does have one somewhere. It's not in his hand, which is good. We're going to Shed Skin. Which card do I want to get? I'm trying to see what my breath is. My breath is currently a 1. Once this guy's breath goes away, it'll be 1/1. If I had another one of these, it'd be perfect. I think I'm going to go ahead and put Claw attacking, and I'll just get rid of Oblivion's Call. All right, got my Claw Slam back. Pitter patter. We miss because it's a 2 to 3 advantage, 1 point advantage to him. But goodbye, Gaia's Breath. Yeah.
Confident.
I guess he figures I haven't played one in a while either, so he could safely be hoarding. But luckily,
always breaks my heart to see 2 hoarded because you just think, perfect opportunity to undermine their progression, but you haven't got the card, so.
Thankfully, he's still stymied because, as I said, the Browns can't develop their own attacks early, and so if you can get some kind of defensive card out like we have, we really, even though he's got Tail Bash trained, he's going to have to use Claw Attack for the foreseeable future because I have the distinct advantage. So this card really helped us. That was a big lifesaver. Now we have 2 Tail Bashes, and this is good. We aged last time, so now we have a 2 ability, which means we can have 2 instances of Tail Bash out. So this is a good thing. Let's go ahead and his Gaia's Breath is gone. It's 2/2 advantage, but now that we have 2 cards out, we can do Aim Strike, and opt to do it at the 1 rank, but with a +1 attack. Of course, when you draw 1s, it doesn't matter. I feel like I say that a lot in our videos, but this is I think overall still we're in pretty good shape. Even though we're behind in essence, this is going to help, I think, slow him down at least and allow us to keep pushing the advantage.
Yeah, for context of people, again, speaking from a master of the game in you versus a relative novice in the game, I look at the battlefield at the moment, and I'm not all that concerned with the gameplay from your perspective at the moment.
Yeah.
I think the next couple of turns are going to be critical in terms of what he does to counteract your absorptive hide, and depending on what attacks he manages to compile. Because at the moment, even though you're behind with Essence, I'd still give you the edge in the long term because you've had more of a chance to sort of get ahead in terms of the aging process. Now, he is on par, but then again, you have to look, in terms of attacks, exactly the same, and you've got a bonus. He doesn't, he's already played a bonus card. He hasn't really maximized the advantages that gave him, except for stymieing you with the feast card that he played at one stage. So it's still very much in your favor, despite the essence discrepancy, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, this is turning out to be a real mirror match because he just trained his Tail Basher too, which does kind of counteract the gift a little bit because now he can do his aim strike, and you see it's now 3-3. So yeah, it's interesting. We have a mirror match going. I have the gift. He doesn't, but he just slowed me down with the feast, and I haven't slowed him down yet. So it's an interesting. We're kind of definitely feeling each other out, I'd say, for sure.
That's all for now. Stay tuned for part 2 of Marc's Let's Play of DragonClash. Can he get that win? Stay tuned to find out.